Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. The rain hadn't let up all afternoon. It tapped lightly on the windows like it had something to say. Inside, the house was quiet, too quiet. I was cleaning up the kitchen when I heard his voice behind me. Calm. Low. Careful. Tell me to stop, or don't. I froze, my hands still gripping the edge of the sink. I turned around slowly and saw him standing there, my stepson, Noah. 23, confident in a way that still caught me off guard, even after all these months under the same roof. There was nothing boyish in the way he looked at me. And it wasn't the first time I'd felt this tension quietly twisting between us, building in the spaces where words used to fit. It started weeks ago. Glances that lingered too long. Accidental touches that felt too deliberate. Conversations that danced too close to lines we both knew were there. I told myself I was imagining things. That he was just being friendly. That I was just lonely. But deep down, I knew better. And maybe that's what scared me most. Noah had moved in with me and his father about a year ago after finishing college. We were strangers at first, trying to find our footing. His dad worked long hours, and that left just the two of us at home most nights. Dinner. TV. Quiet talks that got less guarded over time. Somewhere between the laughs and late-night takeout, something shifted. It wasn't supposed to be like this. He wasn't supposed to look at me like that. And I wasn't supposed to feel this way, not for him. I kept trying to put space between us, but it never lasted. One step forward, two back. A small smile here, a joke there. It was always innocent until it wasn't. Tonight was different though. There was no mistaking his tone. No pretending I didn't hear what I heard. Tell me to stop, or don't. His eyes searched mine, waiting, not pressuring, but not backing down either. The air between us felt heavy. The kind of heavy that made it hard to breathe, like we were both holding something too big to carry but too dangerous to drop. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know what I wanted. All I knew was that everything had changed in that single moment. The safety of silence was gone. And now I had to decide. What do you say when the line you've tried not to cross disappears right under your feet? What do you do when the one person you're not supposed to want is the only one who's ever made you feel truly seen? I stood there, heart racing, trying to choose between the right thing and the real thing. And that's when I didn't move. I couldn't. My hands were still wet, my breath caught halfway in my throat. Behind me, Noah didn't say another word. He just stood there, waiting. And somehow that silence said even more than his voice had. The room felt too warm all of a sudden, like the air between us had thickened. I turned back to the sink, pretending to focus on rinsing off the last plate. My fingers trembled just enough for me to notice. He'd never said anything like that before. Not outright. But looking back, maybe I should have seen this coming. It was in the way he lingered after dinner. The way he always sat a little too close on the couch when we watched movies. The way his eyes would stay on me just a second too long. I always told myself it didn't mean anything. That he was just being kind. That I was reading too much into it. But tonight, there was no mistaking it. I kept thinking about how this all began, how different life looked just a year ago. His dad and I were still trying to patch things up, pretending that time could smooth over the cracks that had started showing between us. And then Noah came to live with us. At first, it felt like a second chance. A reset. But the more time his father spent working late or sleeping on the couch, the more Noah and I found ourselves alone in this house built on silence. We never talked about the tension, not directly. But it showed up in the smallest ways. In the way I'd catch him watching me when I wasn't looking. In how careful he was with his words, always respectful but charged. Like everything he said was layered with something just underneath the surface. I started dressing more carefully around the house. Less skin, more distance. But it didn't stop the looks. And it didn't stop the thoughts, either, ones I hated myself for even having. I tried dating again once. I went out for drinks with someone I met through work. Nice guy. Polite. but all I kept thinking about was how bored I felt sitting across from him. How I couldn't wait to get home. And when I walked through that door and saw Noah on the couch, headphones in, head tilted back and eyes closed, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Something warm. Something dangerous. I shook the memory off and reached for the towel to dry my hands, but my grip was weak. The towel slipped to the floor. I bent down to grab it and felt him step closer. Not touching me. Just close enough that I could feel the heat off his skin. Close enough to know this was real. Not some daydream. Not some fantasy. He whispered, "You never told me to stop." I didn't answer. Couldn't. My voice was stuck somewhere in the space between want and fear. He waited a beat longer, then took a slow step back. "I'm not trying to mess things up," he said quietly. "I just need to know if I'm crazy, or if you feel it too." Then he turned and walked out of the kitchen, leaving me standing there in the quiet hum of the fridge and the distant sound of rain. I leaned against the counter, my heartbeat loud in my ears, and asked myself the one question I'd been trying to avoid for months. What happens if I don't tell him to stop? I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft beat of the rain and the quiet ticking of the hallway clock. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Noah's face, heard his voice. "You never told me to stop." The words played over and over in my head, like a loop I couldn't shut off. The next morning, the house felt different. Colder. Quieter. He was already gone by the time I came downstairs. His car wasn't in the driveway. I told myself it was better that way. Space. Time. Breathing room. But the silence he left behind stayed heavy on my shoulders. Later that day, I sat across from my sister at a small diner near the office. She was rambling about her latest date, her new yoga class, the usual. I nodded and smiled at all the right moments, but I wasn't really there. I stirred my coffee and kept thinking about the line I was standing on. "I saw Noah's Instagram story the other night," she said suddenly, pulling me back. "You two looked close." I looked up. "It was just dinner at home." She narrowed her eyes. "You sure?" I gave a tight smile, then changed the subject. But her question stayed with me. The truth was, we were too close. Closer than we should be. And the worst part? I wasn't sure I wanted that to change. There was something about Noah, his confidence, his attention, the way he listened, that felt different. Real. But every time I thought about what it meant, I heard his father's voice in my head. I saw the way he looked at me when he still tried. Before the silence. Before the distance. He and I hadn't shared a bed in months. We barely spoke unless it was about bills or groceries. Somewhere along the way, we just stopped being us. And I didn't even fight it. Maybe because deep down, I already knew it was over. When I got home that evening, Noah was on the porch, headphones on, sketchbook in his lap. He didn't look up at first. I hesitated, then walked over, sat down on the other end of the bench. For a moment, we said nothing. Then he closed the sketchbook and looked at me. "I meant what I said last night." I nodded slowly. "I know. I'm not trying to mess up your life," he said, voice quiet but steady. "But I can't pretend anymore either. If I'm wrong, just say it." I looked at him, really looked. He wasn't a kid. He hadn't been for a long time. There was a calm in him, a stillness, like he'd made peace with whatever answer I might give. I hated how much that moved me. "I wish this was easier," I said, barely above a whisper. He gave a faint smile. "Easy things usually aren't worth much." Then he stood, walked past me, and disappeared into the house. I sat there a long time after, hands in my lap, heart beating too loud. The sky had started to clear, but inside me, the storm was still very much alive. The days that followed felt like walking on a wire, balanced between what we'd said and what we hadn't. Noah didn't push. He gave me space, like he promised. But it wasn't the kind of space that let things cool down. If anything, it made the air heavier. The tension didn't fade. It just got quieter, more charged, like a storm waiting for the right moment to break. His father was home more lately, but even that didn't ease anything. If anything, it made things worse. The awkward dinners, the stiff conversations, the silence between bites. He'd sit across the table, eyes glued to his phone or the news, while I pretended not to notice the way Noah watched me from the corner of his eye. I couldn't even look up without my heart speeding up. And the guilt that never left. Every time I laughed at something Noah said or brushed past him in the hallway, I felt it tightening around me, like a reminder, like a warning. One evening, the power went out. A loud pop, then darkness. I was alone in the kitchen, candles already lit from a few days back when the storms first started rolling through. The whole house dimmed to a soft orange glow. I tried to focus on cleaning up, anything to keep my mind busy. But then I heard his footsteps. He walked in quietly, holding a flashlight. The light moved across the ceiling, then landed on me. He smiled, barely. I didn't move. "You okay?" he asked, voice low. "Yeah, just power again." He set the flashlight down and stood by the table, watching me dry my hands on a towel. The candlelight made everything feel closer, more real. His shadow stretched behind him, long and still. "I wasn't going to come in," he said after a long pause. But I heard the sound and thought, "I'm fine." I cut in quickly, but my voice cracked a little. He took a step closer. "You're not." I turned around slowly, towel still in my hands. "This isn't simple, Noah." "I know it's not," he said. "But what we're doing now, pretending like nothing happened, that's worse." I couldn't look at him. I stared at the candle instead, watching the way the flame bent with every breath I took. "Do you think about it?" he asked softly. "That night. What I said." I closed my eyes. Every day. The silence that followed was thick. Charged. I could feel the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on us both. He stepped forward again. "So what now? Are we just going to live in this silence?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My heart was pounding, the air between us electric. Every instinct screamed for me to back away, to protect what was left of the life I'd built. But something deeper, something quieter, held me there. And just when I thought I might say something, the front door opened. His father's voice echoed from the hall. The sound froze everything. Noah's eyes locked on mine, wide, searching. And in that second, everything we hadn't said hung between us, one breath away from being found. His father's voice echoed through the hall again, louder this time, followed by the thud of keys hitting the table near the door. I stepped back, almost on instinct. Noah did the same, the flicker in his eyes dimming just a little. Whatever was about to happen between us, it vanished in that moment, buried under the weight of a door swinging open and a third presence stepping back into the space we thought we had to ourselves. I turned my back, pretending to straighten the counter, acting like nothing was wrong. Like my heart wasn't slamming into my ribs. Noah picked up the flashlight, already backing out of the kitchen as his dad walked in, flipping the light switch out of habit before realizing the power was still out. He glanced between us. "What's going on?" he asked casually, but I caught the edge in his tone. His eyes moved from me to Noah, then back again, something unreadable flashing behind them. "Just helping her out," Noah said. His voice was calm, too calm. "Storm knocked the lights again?" his father asked, walking over to check the breaker near the back door. I nodded. "Yeah." Came back for a second, then cut out again. He fiddled with the switches, cursing softly under his breath. I stepped out of the kitchen, into the hallway, needing air, needing space. But it followed me the feeling that something had shifted, that we weren't hiding it as well as we thought. Later that night, I heard them arguing. Their voices were low, but the walls in this house weren't thick enough. I didn't catch every word, but I heard enough. "You've been weird lately," his father said. "You think I don't notice when you can't even look me in the eye?" "I've got stuff on my mind, that's all," Noah shot back. "Not everything's about you." "Really? Then what is it?" "Because you've been walking around like you're carrying a secret." The silence that followed was louder than the words. I sat in my bedroom, lights still out, phone screen glowing faintly in my lap. My hands were ice cold. I couldn't stop thinking about what would happen if the truth ever slipped out. What if he knew? What if he was already putting it together? The next morning, everything felt wrong. There was a note on the kitchen counter when I came downstairs. In Noah's handwriting. Needed space. Took a drive. Don't know when I'll be back. No text. No call. Just those words, hanging there like a cliff edge. And just when I thought the silence was the worst part, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You think no one sees, but some of us notice everything. No name. No follow-up. Just that one line. I stood there frozen, the phone shaking in my hand, my heart pounding with a new kind of fear. Someone knew. Or thought they did. Either way, this was no longer just between us. The message replayed in my head all morning. You think no one sees, but some of us notice everything. I stared at it until the screen dimmed, half hoping it would disappear, like maybe it wasn't real. But it was. And I had no idea who sent it. Noah still hadn't come back. Hours passed, then a full day. I texted him. No reply. I called. Straight to voicemail. The silence was driving me crazy. Every sound in the house made me flinch. Every glance from his father felt heavier. Like he knew something, or was waiting for me to say it first. That night, I couldn't sleep. Again. I went out to the porch, wrapped in a blanket, hoping the cold air would clear my head. And then headlights hit the driveway. Noah. He stepped out of the car, slower than usual. His eyes looked tired, red around the edges. He didn't say anything as he walked up the steps. Just stood there, hands in his pockets, like he wasn't sure if he should come any closer. I got your note, I said. I needed to think, he replied. Figure out if this was real or just something I made up. My heart dropped. And? It's real. I know it is. But someone else knows too. He pulled out his phone and showed me the same message I'd gotten. Same number. Same words. We're not being paranoid, he said. Someone's watching. We sat there for a long time in the dark, quiet except for the wind in the trees. I should have felt scared. But what I felt was something else. Clarity. Hiding had only made everything worse. The guilt. The silence. The guessing. I told my dad I was moving out, Noah said finally. Not because of you, because it's time. I nodded, my chest tight. And what happens to us? He looked at me, serious and calm. That's up to you. Before I could answer, the porch light flicked on behind us. His father stood in the doorway. He wasn't angry. Just tired. Like someone who'd figured something out too late. I read the message, he said, holding up his phone. It was sent from a burner app. Disconnected now. But I know what it meant. I know what's been going on. Noah stood. Dad, but he raised a hand. Let me talk. I stood too, heart racing, ready for the worst. I'm not blind, he said. I saw the way things changed. Between you two. I just didn't want to believe it. I braced myself. But then he looked right at me. I haven't been the man you needed for a long time. And maybe this, whatever it is, started in the space I left behind. Noah's jaw clenched. It's not like that. I know, his father said. And maybe that's the problem. Then he turned and walked back inside, leaving the door half open. Noah stepped closer, voice low. What do we do now? I looked up at him, still stunned, still caught in everything that had just cracked open. But before I could speak, my phone buzzed again. New message. Unknown number. You made your choice. Now watch it fall apart. My hands trembled as I read the message on my phone. You made your choice. Now watch it fall apart. It felt like a threat, but from who? And why now, when everything had already come to the surface? Noah read over my shoulder. Someone's trying to scare us. I nodded slowly, still frozen. But why? What do they gain from this? He didn't answer, just pulled out his phone and started typing something. His father hadn't come back to the door. The house behind us was silent again, like it always was after a storm. We spent the next hour going through old messages, thinking about anyone who might have seen too much or suspected something. Nothing added up. It could have been a coworker, a neighbor, maybe even one of my sister's friends. But without a name or face, we were just guessing. And maybe that was the point, to keep us second-guessing everything. Eventually, I turned to him. We can't live like this. Hiding, waiting. I know, he said. But I don't care who knows anymore. What we have, it's real. It always has been. I smiled for the first time in days. Not because everything was fixed, but because I finally felt like I could breathe again. The next morning, Noah packed a few bags. His father helped him carry them to the car. There weren't any speeches, no dramatic goodbyes. Just a quiet handshake, a nod, and something unspoken between them that said more than any apology ever could. After he left, the house felt emptier, but lighter. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't pretending anymore. I went back to work. I reached out to my sister. I started living again, one honest step at a time. A week later, I got a final message from the unknown number. Glad you chose yourself. No threat. No name. Just those words. And then the number disappeared completely. I'll never know who sent it or why. Maybe someone saw something they didn't understand. Maybe they thought they were protecting someone. Maybe it was just a stranger who got too involved. It doesn't matter now. Noah and I still talk. Still laugh. Still find each other in the quiet moments. It's not perfect. We're not perfect. But it's ours. And for the first time in a long time, that feels like enough. So, if you made it this far, thank you for coming along on this wild, emotional ride with me. What would you have done? Did we make the right choice? I want to know what you think. Drop a comment below and tell me how this ending hit you. Would you want to see what happens next? And hey, if this story kept you hooked, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss the next one. I've got more stories on the way, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. 3.